Gamers, we are back with a video on Etheria Restart, TTV and Thing. We're live every single day, 5 p.m. Eastern. I wanted to pretty much give a quick TLDR on Etheria Restart, how it works, what the UIs are doing, and pretty much just a genuine beginner's guide to drop this into Razor language, because there's a lot going on the screen, but I promise you it's not that hard. So let's just get straight into it. So right now we're looking here. This is the main menu. If you look right here, your stability is your resin. So it's the same thing as your Genshin Impact when you use your artifact domains or you're farming echoes and Widowing Waves, whatever the case may be. Your Hydra crystals is going to be your pulling currency, and then you have your credits over here, your Etheria Corn shell credits, whatever you want to call this. Keep in mind, now I'm going to make a video on this a little bit separately. Resin is very important in this game. Unfortunately, it does have a little bit of like this older type mechanic, let's say like a Honkai Impact or something, where anything you do, PvE wise at least, is going to require resin. I'll break all these down in a moment, but let's say, for example, if I wanted to farm some sort of materials here, this is going to charge 10 stability, aka 10 resin. If I were to fail this battle for whatever reason, because it's possible to fail, it will refund you 9 as opposed to the 10. So keep that in mind when you're in the story fights. I even think in story where if you get into an encounter, it's going to cost you about 5 stability per encounter. So just be aware of that. There's ways to min-max and kind of go around this because they've been very generous with the credits. I haven't spent a single dime, man. I got tons of characters. But again, I'll break that down in a completely separate video. And I think one of the most interesting things to just get into off rip is going to be the summoning system. So with summoning, I'm going to move my head over for a second. You see there's 2 limited banners. So the way this works, again, very similar to E7 in vein, is you have 2 sets of characters. You have a character that can fall into these first 3 top elements, which is like the light, dark, not light, dark, the fire, grass, water, whatever. But then you have the other ones, which are your light and dark units, right? And so they're separate. Now, obviously, you can see it tells you what type of buff you'll get if you're using these specific elements. So if you use the odd against reason, you can get this buff, and vice versa. If you use a dark against a light, this is the buff you can get, etc., right? So with these 2 limited banners, here's how it works. It's pretty simple. Both of these banners, both limited banners, are going to have a max pity of 100, right? Now, there is no 50-50. So you were guaranteed within 100 pulls to get Messiah, who is a light dark character, or to get Freya, who is from the other affinities. Now, these 2 other banners are a little bit different. These banners, to my understanding, based off what I've seen, have a pity of 80. So, and they use different summons. We'll get into the specific summons in a moment, but I believe it says here on Pride when the soft pity is 50 and the hard pity is 80. I didn't know which one the soft pity was, what number that activates it. So if you look closely here, I'm going to call it the RGB group, right? Red, green, blue. The RGB group uses a currency of purple disc that is used as well on the permanent summon. So again, permanent summon has 80 pity, but this one, RGB, has 100. When you look in light and dark, the LD banners, this is a gold summon. And as well, if you go down here, extra affinity summon, this is going to give you either a light or a dark character. They're using, again, the gold summons. Keep this in mind. So RGB/normal standard banner is going to use the same type of summon, and the light and dark, the LD units, are going to use the same type of summon. So it's 2 different summons. Now, obviously, with your crystals, you are able to just summon if you can, right? That's not a big deal. Now, one thing I do want to keep in mind is if I were to summon, let's say, this Freya banner, it is only 100 pretty much Hydra crystal per pull. So 1,000 Hydra crystals equals 110 pull. A little different for light and dark. Light and dark here, if I click this, it is technically 3,000 crystals for a 10 pull. I actually don't know how much it would be here. Okay. Okay. Well, I don't know how much it's going to be here. I'm not going to lie to you. But it seems like the limited light and dark banner is 3,000 for a 10 pull as opposed to the 1,000. Just keep that in mind when you go forward. Now, you get tons of these anima prototypes, these standard pulls for free in the game. The one good thing about the permanent banner, I will say, is in the probabilities, although it's a little bit low, you can get characters that are an RGB. You can get a character that is an SSR that is from the light and dark family. So just keep that in mind. Now, the next thing I want to cover over here is the character screen, just pretty quickly. Obviously, you have your HP, your defense, your crit rate, effect accuracy, your attack, speed, crit damage, effect res. Nothing really too out of the ordinary here, and every character is going to have 3 skills or possibly 2 skills and a passive, right? So this is pretty basic gotcha stuff, and if you scroll through, it tells you what element they're aligned to, etc. It brings this up for you if you forgot. But I want to go dive into the modules, the prowess, and the shells, right? Because this is what's really important. The module is considered technically their version of artifact, right? And so this one is all wonky. Let me pull up this homegirl, right? So I'm here on Tiamat with the modules. It's very, very interesting. The modules is the artifact, and the shell is the weapon. So it's technically like their version of light cone. These two tie into each other, which I actually really like. So if we look right here, all my set, it's called Swift Rush. And if you look at the set bonus, let me tab out of here for a second. If I have 12 Swift Rush, I get an extra 35% speed. If I have 8 Swift Rush, I get 20. Only 4, you get 8, right? So how can you get 12, right? How does this work? Well, as you go on in the game, if you see all the gear is here, I'll break down the substats and the main stats in a moment, but you see the 2 little boots, right? The higher gear you get, obviously, the more boots it'll have. I think it goes up to 3 boots per piece of gear, but I'm looking right now, I'm rocking the Swift Mask, Swift Rush. If I take this, if I unload this, I no longer have that 12 set. I am back down to 8. It says I have 11 out of 12, right? So you want to make sure that, at least in the beginning game, you're trying to mix and match a little bit here. Once the game goes on and you actually farm and you're able to get enough gear, you can actually mix and match a couple sets. So you're able to get the plus 12 set bonus with your module / shell without actually using all of the same pieces on your artifacts. So keep that in mind. It's really dope. Instead of, let's say, for example, I'm talking Genshin Impact, you need the 4-piece from Mara Chase. Well, you can have your 4-piece Mara Chase, but then you could also have a 2-piece Gilded or something. You know, like you could have 2 artifact sets on, depending on your build, which I think is very interesting. Now, how does the light cone tie into this? Well, look right here. This is a Swift Rush that is giving me 2 boots. So if I take this, light cone off, I'm just going to replace it with Onslaught. I go back to my modules here. As you can see, I only have my 8-piece activated. Instead of going from 13, it went down to 11. And then my Onslaught, I don't have enough Onslaught. I only have 2 out of 4. So it's really good to try to mix and match. And obviously, you're not going to want all of the same set. You're going to want to try to get as much extra set pieces as possible. But that's how this works. It's pretty simple once you figure it out. Now, breaking down the artifacts themselves, very similar to Honkai Star Rail. The mask is going to always give you the main stat of attack. You're always going to have the main stat of HP for the middle one, and the bottom is always going to give you the main stat of defense. The RNG comes in on the right side. So on the right side is when you're able to roll different main stats here or over here. Okay, so left side will always be fixed. The only RNG will need to be the substats. Right side, the RNG is going to be the substats as well as the main stats. The way the artifact works in this game, it's pretty simple. Again, I don't have like a gold artifact to show you yet, and I'll get to those in a moment. But you upgrade your artifacts. I'm just going to upgrade this one, for example. So I go here, I upgrade this to level 3. I now get crit damage. I upgrade this to 6. I just got a speed boost. I upgrade this to 9. I got a defense. It's unfortunate. I'll full send it just to show you. I upgrade it to 12. I get an additional crit damage boost. And then you upgrade it to 15, which is the max. And I got speed. Not the worst thing in the world, I guess. And pretty much, that's how the artifacts work. Now, keep in mind, as you progress through the game and you get better artifacts, the more of these substats that you have already filled out, that's a full 4-liner, the better for you. That way, as opposed to when you level up your artifact, instead of adding crit damage and adding speed, it's already there and it could just automatically go into one of those substats. So beginning game, it seems like you don't really want to go too hard on these, especially the purple pieces, because of the fact that they are not dropping with full stats. Some of them might drop with 2, but most of the time they really seem to be dropping with just 1 stat. So keep that in mind. Again, beginning game, you can level things up to like 6 or 9, but I wouldn't really take it that much further. Now, the prowess is your talents. Your prowess is your talent. So I'm going to move my big head over here for a moment. I've upgraded her talent. So right now, if you look, this is her skill 1. You click here. Every time I upgrade this, I get a base flat attack buff. And then this is actually leveling the skill. Once I increase the skill, it gives up the damage, etc. And you get these pretty much by farming your talent materials, which I will go over all the domains in a moment. And then you need, obviously, your special type of, currency, your perfect lattice. You can think of that. I'm trying to think of like a really good equivalency. I don't know if maybe like a boss mat would necessarily be. Yeah, I think a boss mat, like a feather in Genshin, right? Or like a feather from the Heron or something in like, Wuthering Waves, or excuse me, Dreamless, things like that. So this is your talent screen, and every talent's different. So I go here. When I upgrade this, it's going to give me my flat defense until I reach the max here. It goes up to level 5. My skill 3, this is going to give me max HP. And I believe this is the same for everyone. It's always at least in the beta, where skill 1 gives you attack, skill 2 is going to give you defense, and then skill 3 is going to give you HP. So pretty consistent all around. And then if you do have consolations for the character, you click this little button right here and it breaks it down. To my understanding, the consolations are pretty ineffective in PvP, but really good in PvE, which is awesome. I love that. That's a massive W. So that's pretty much the main character stuff. Now, breaking down the menus, we go to the challenge menu. There's a lot of shit on the screen. There's a lot of shit. So let's just go over this as quickly as possible. The Grim Pursuit. The Grim Pursuit is going to provide you with the weapons. This is going to give you the weapon type. So for example, I can possibly get an Unbridled Science, which will give me the matrix available below of Unbreakable or Swift Rush. So I can get a weapon that drops with one of those. Then this one can possibly give me my Onslaught / Wellspring. And this right here is, I think this is to level up your shells. Yeah, so this is shell XP. So this is going to give you, all of these will give you different type of shells. They'll give you different type of light cones. We'll use the term light cone for a moment. They'll give you different things. So keep that in mind. And obviously, the more you progress, you'll get more, right? So if I start off on normal, I only am able to get Teacher Owl. I go to hard, I now have the possibility of dropping Teacher Owl and this Unbridled Science. So that is Grim Pursuit. Your threshold, this one right here, is giving you your artifact, right? And so this has tons of difficulties. It goes down all the way to Inferno. My head is covering it, but as you can see, you're going all the way here, and there's tons. And look at this. I'm going to swap back here. The swap back. These are all the different artifacts. So you get different artifact sets for different difficulties that you are acquiring, right? Keep this in mind as you go on. So if I go all the way up to normal 1, it shows the only artifacts that I can get is Onslaught, and I can get its Wellspring. Now, if I go to hard, I can get Onslaught, I can get Cure, and I can get Wellspring. So that's how that progresses. There's tons of these. I think Pridewind has like 30 sets out or something. I think the game launched with 30 artifact sets, something along those lines. So obviously, these are going to be the 3 that you're going to use to grind, and whatever sets you need to fit your character, you find whichever one it is. Whether you're fighting Doki Doki, you're fighting this homie, or whatever in God's name that is. All right, let's keep it pushing. Investigation. This is where you get your XP to level up your characters. Now, the great thing about this is you could do continuous battle in this game, or if I wanted to actually just farm this a bunch of times, let's say I'm going to farm this 4 times right now, this will use my 40 stability, my 40 stamina, and I'll just show you real quick. I'm going to launch it. I'm going to let the game decide my fate, hit battle. I drop this down, bam, the game is farming for me while I'm over here discussing this with you. So every time you clear something, you're going to get either shards or some sort of currency, it seems. So keep in mind, when you're playing the game, you do want to try to at least do the full clears for almost everything, because you are getting tons of pulls that way. Now, this one right here, the GP Outpost, this is your talent materials. So for example, I'm going to go back for a moment. If I go to my Animus menu and I go to my Prowess, let's say I need this red currency. It will literally tell you GP Outpost Reason Observation. You go to Reason, bam, you figure it out. Pretty straightforward. Nothing too complicated here. It looks like a lot, but it's not really. And again, you always get these first-time rewards. It's very generous, and they really incentivize you to just play the game and try to complete everything. So that's dope. It's going to be for all types of elements, as you see, RGB, LD. And I mean, I don't even know if I'm missing anything else realistically. The one thing I will say you should really focus on is Hyperlink Charter. This is kind of your base and where you can go and you do your collection. So for example, like it says fully equipped 1 SSR Animus with level 9 modules. Um, you know, just so on and so forth. You complete all of these, you get more rewards, etc. Nothing too crazy there. What I will say is you do need to level this Animus girl. It seems you have to level her and invest a lot into her, but that's okay because even if you don't like this unit, there is an event going on. So if we go to the event tab where you are actually able to reconfigure and refund every single piece of gear that you have put into this character. So keep in mind, especially if you don't want to use this character, let's say later on, you could just simply do this and bam, you're good. So it's really solid. You could do this up to 5 times. I believe the first 2 are free, I believe, or it might be just the first one that's free. And then obviously in the events, you have all different types of things. You have your check-ins, your task progress, etc. You know, I'm gonna claim that. Thank you very much. I'll do a cheeky single pull just because I'm built different. Get a little 5 stars on. You know what I'm saying? I already got free in 1 pull, but I'm gonna hit you with this 5-star. Okay, whatever. We'll just end the video here. Fucking Andrew. But that's pretty much it, man. That's like the TLDR, and unfortunately, you do get locked out of the story quite a bit, so you do have to try to progress as fast as possible. That's where resin refreshing comes into play, which again, I will kind of go into a more in-depth guide of that probably tomorrow. But the TLDR is genuinely, you want to save your Hydra crystals to resin refresh for the first couple days. That way, and then you can start using this to pull. But that's Etheria Restart, man. That's pretty much the basis, the TLDR of the game. You do have this async echoes here. When you go here, I think you might actually acquire this character. But if I completed the hard mode, I got some level up currencies. Yeah, it's pretty dope. And then there is the PvP. I have not touched that yet. I haven't touched that yet. This is another event that I have not gotten to. So we will learn more as we go on. This is another co-op PvP event, but I'm really enjoying it. I'm really looking forward to the launch of the game, and I hope you found this helpful. And with that being said, I love you. Mwah. I'll see you in the next one.